See, unfortunately, one of the problems that happens in Ireland is that Celtic mythology. This is one of the reasons I liked Martin Brennan's book and why he was such an influence to me, is because he didn't necessarily rely on the folklore that was applied to these sites. So, for instance, there's a concentric circle over here, a rath, which is called, the Hill of Usheen, Usheen, the son of Finn McCool. But these characters, and this is all over the place, and they even named them things like Saint Patrick and stuff like that for Christian times. These are all over the place, okay? And the mythology that's applied to them is from a specific period in the Iron Age, not necessarily indicating who built them and what the mythology of the builders were. And what makes Martin Brennan's book so valuable is, as a comparative mythologist like myself, he applied Mesoamerican, Mayan, and other similar megalithic structures and their functionality regarding the cycles of the sun to the Irish ones and found great similarities, which you will, because this diversity of mythology is something that flowers out in local environments, but has a basic archetypal form that generally is based on the cycles of the sun, sometimes the moon, but not in an astrological sense, in a scientific, ritualistic manner that the ancient shamans or whatever they were in pre Celtic Ireland, whatever the holy men of the period, were actually engineers of the solar boat that took the sun across the sky, and the megalithic structures across the centre of Ireland were the navigational path which they constructed out of the megalithic structures along this path to guide the sun across Ireland in order to make it sure it safely rested in Tirnanog, the land of the young. Why? Because it doesn't die when it goes down, it just merely passes through the other world, which is a dimension and not a subterranean place of punishment, to restore itself again in the Irish Sea. And when you start to look at the megaliths in these ways, rather than saying, oh, Finn McCool was named at this one, or Cuchulainn was here, or Queen Maeve was here, you realize how unproductive that whole Celtic, Gaelic, Irish mythology is in understanding these sites. Yeah, they create great stories, but they're no more realistic than the Merry Maiden story of this in England, or of these kinds of other stories of people being frozen for dancing on the Sabbath and they turning into stone circles and so on. It's just that was just a narrative from a previous time, but these megaliths were built thousands of years before that, and it's only by a kind of an analytical, magical archaeology that we can actually come to understand, or at least get insights into what they were thinking. Yeah, so I would suggest Martin Brennan's The Stars in the Stone. And for the other side of it, now why I jump back into that book is because I cannot stop thinking about Ragastani's Cyclonopedia and the concept of the subterranean oil god at war with the sun. The sun god, the subterranean god. It makes you now. I'm digressing from what I was talking about, Mell, but this thing of the subterranean god of the Middle East, Abrahamic religions, oil wars, the world we live in today, blocking. This book is, to say this has been influential on me in recent times is an understatement. I find I'm reading this and I remember, now that makes me think about something Martin Brennan wrote in this. So this is kind of, my mind is very much wrapped around this at the moment, and as I just I have my own revelations. I hate to use that word, but my own insights that it makes perfect sense that there's a war in this world, a spiritual war. Now, I'm not saying a physical war, but this is why, in terms of archetypes, between the subterranean darkness represented by the petrochemical god, jealous of the sun. Humanity's job is to protect the sun. We saw that early on. And what do we have today? Bloody Bill Gates, who wants to block out the sun. The sun gives us cancer. This kinds of all this other nonsense about this phobia that the establishment have about the sun, where it was complete in Neolithic times. They built entire cultures on the veneration and ritualization of the solar cycle. It just goes on and on.